The symbolism of the mouse. Mice are classified as rodents, part of the subfamily Murinae in the family Muridae. In terms of species richness, this subfamily is larger than all mammal families, comprising at least 519 species. They are to be found worldwide and have been around at least 14 million years. We even know how a mouse feels. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute of Neurobiology have confirmed that mice have a range of facial expression that include familiar human emotions like pleasure, disgust, nausea, pain and fear. Mice give birth to very large families and are placental. Have poor eyesight, but compensate for their poor eyesight with a keen sense of hearing and well-developed sense of smell. In the wild, mice are also known to build intricate burrows with long entrances and equipped with escape tunnels, and mice populations remain plentiful, partly due to its prolific breeding and partly due to its remarkable adaptability to almost any environment. Examples: the house mouse. The house mouse, Mus musculus, is one of the most abundant species of the genus Mus. House mice are found in and around homes and commercial structures, as well as in open fields and agricultural lands. Compare the house mouse and field mouse. Although a wild animal, the house mouse has been domesticated as the pet mouse and is used as the laboratory mouse. Given the research by the Max Planck Institute, one wonders what human emotions this sort of treatment produces. Dormouse. The dormouse is a rodent of the family Gliridae. This family is also variously called Myoxidae or Muscardinidae. Dormice are named for their long, dormant hibernation period of 6 months or longer. The harvest mouse. The harvest mouse, Micromus minutus, is typically found in fields of cereal crops, such as wheat and oats, in reed beds and in other tall ground vegetation, such as long grass and hedgerows. It is the smallest European rodent and uses its naked, highly prehensile tail for climbing. They do not use burrows. Instead, breeding nests are spherical constructions carefully woven from grass and attached to stems well above the ground. Field and wood mouse. The field or wood mouse, Apodemus sylvaticus, belong to the genus Apodemus. It is found across most of Europe and is a widespread species. Common names are long-tailed field mouse, common field mouse, and European wood mouse. Field and wood mice inhabit forests, grasslands and cultivated fields, tending to seek out more wooded areas in winter. Wood mice burrow extensively, build nests of plants, but live in buildings during harsh seasons. Common characteristics. If we just take these examples, what marks mice out is how tiny and light they are. Few are longer than a few inches in length, and their tail can be longer than they are. And they weigh less than 40 grams, about 1.5 ounces, even down to only half an ounce. The harvest mouse is only 4 grams, 0.14 ounces. One would think that a little creature of this size would symbolically represent fear, nervousness, timidity and caution, but they don't. In all folk tales and children's stories, the mouse is brave and courageous. There is every reason for a mouse to exhibit fear. They are preyed on by snakes, lizards, frogs, cats, wild dogs, foxes, weasels, birds of prey, including owls and hawks, tarantulas, and even certain kinds of arthropods, and used as laboratory animals. Even humans eat mice. In Victorian Britain, fried mice were still given to children as a folk remedy for bedwetting. Creamed mice were used during World War II rationing, and mice are still a delicacy throughout eastern Zambia and northern Malawi. As well as Asia, this is fried wild mouse with lemongrass and chili pepper. But if one studies mice, one finds they are extraordinarily courageous in real life. We have found stories of a mouse who confronted and killed a viper. See the link to our website entry in the description below this video. And a mouse unfazed by a leopard. So what we will now do is use some children's stories in which the mouse figures prominently and displays its symbolic characteristics, but show that the dormouse needs to be treated differently to the ordinary mouse. Reepicheep. Reepicheep the mouse is a fictional character. In the children's fantasy series, The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. He appears as a major character in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Reepicheep is imperturbably courteous, utterly without fear, and motivated by a deep concern for honour. He wears a thin circlet of gold on his head, with a crimson feather. His weapon is a rapier. Reepicheep reveals that he has been driven since infancy by a vision of finding Aslan's country across the sea in the far east of the Narnian world. It is Reepicheep who urges the Dawn Treader to sail into the mysterious island of darkness, thus facilitating the rescue of Lord Roop, the fourth of the 7 Lords of Narnia, whom it is their mission to find. The final 3 are found in a cursed sleep on Ramandu's island, which can only be broken, the party are told, if they sail to the end of the world, and there leave at least one of their number never to return. And it is Reepicheep who volunteers for this role, and at the end of the book carries through with it, thereby both breaking the curse and fulfilling his vision. Thus C.S. Lewis's mouse symbolically reaches dawn on the spiritual path. A. Milne, The Dormouse and the Doctor. When We Were Very Young is a book of poetry by A. Milne, published in 1924 and illustrated by E. H. Shepard. The poem uses the special characteristics of a dormouse in that it is always sleepy or sleeping, and is as a consequence exceptionally vulnerable. Here the dormouse is not brave. He does not defend what he actually believes in, and by doing this, overbearing authority in the form of the doctor decides what will happen to him. A doctor came hurrying round and he said, "Tut tut, I am sorry to find you in bed. Just say 99 while I look at your chest. Don't you find that chrysanthemums answer the best?" Indeed, the dormouse actually displays cowardice, closing his eyes to all the changes and injustices being wrought upon him. So A. Milne is using the dormouse as a warning. Be aware of what you have that is good, and what you want, and much the most answering things that he knew were geraniums red and delphiniums blue. And don't close your eyes to those who would impose their ideas on you. Lewis Carroll, The Dormouse. The Dormouse is a character in A Mad Tea Party, Chapter 7, from the 1865 novel Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. The Mad Hatter is mad because as a hatter he will have used mercury to make the hats. Mercury poisoning was common in the hat trade during Lewis Carroll's time, as most people wore hats. Erethism, the name given to the psychiatric symptoms, was so well known that the phrase "mad as a hatter" entered the language. But whoever did the illustration, whether it is Tenniel in the original books or Johnny Depp's depiction, the symptoms of madness are made all too apparent. Hare behaviour you're most likely to witness in the month of March includes madcap chases and furious boxing matches involving irrational, argumentative and indeed aggressive behaviour. However, the Dormouse sits passively between the March Hare and the Mad Hatter, and they use him as a cushion while he slept when Alice arrives at the start of the chapter. He briefly becomes active and starts to tell them a story. The Dormouse had closed its eyes by this time and was going off into a doze, but on being pinched by the Hatter, it woke up again with a little shriek and went on. But when Alice shows an interest and starts to ask questions, the Hatter interjects as good as telling her to shut up. This piece of rudeness was more than Alice could bear. She got up in great disgust and walked off. The Dormouse fell asleep instantly. The last time she saw them, they were trying to put the Dormouse into the teapot. So we have just had two examples of a Dormouse being used to represent compliance with bad behaviour, whether it is the bullying of the doctor or the bullying of two mentally ill characters. The message in both cases is not to be a dormouse, but wake up and defend yourself, or even better, fight for what you believe in. Beatrix Potter, The Tale of Mrs. Tittlemouse. The Tale of Mrs. Tittlemouse is a book written and illustrated by Beatrix Potter, and first published in 1910. The book tells the story of a woodmouse named Mrs. Thomasina Tittlemouse and her efforts to keep her house in order. She turns away unwanted visitors, beetles, a ladybird, and a large spider seeking shelter from the rain. And along one of her passageways, she runs into Babbity Bumble, a bumblebee. And in a storeroom, she comes across a nest of 4 more bees, whom she is unable to remove. Symbolically, therefore, this is a story about a different kind of courage, the determination to keep one's house in order, so not literally in order, but to preserve order when constantly assailed by chaos, making sure it is only used by those who are welcome and preserve its orderliness, and to do it politely and with good grace. For example, upon returning to her parlour, she finds the neighbour from the drain below, Mr. Jackson the toad, sitting in her rocking chair, wet and dripping water onto the floor. He stays over dinner, but declines to eat any of the food Mrs. Tittlemaus offers him. She mops up his footprints as he rummages for honey. When Mr. Jackson finds the bees, he pulls out their nest. After Mr. Jackson departs, Mrs. Tittlemaus spends a fortnight uncleaning all the mess in her home. She uses twigs to make her front door narrower. She then holds a party for 5 other little mice. Mr. Jackson, being no longer able to fit through the door, sits outside drinking honey. So ultimately the story is one of courage, as she battles those who would destroy her home and threaten her way of life, until, after a lot of hard work, she makes it safe enough that fellow mice can be invited. Jill Barklam, Brambley Hedge. Brambley Hedge is a series of illustrated children's books recounting the adventures of a community of mice who live together in the tranquil surroundings of the English countryside. The writer described Brambley Hedge as a loving and caring society. The tales involve conflict resolution and exploration, and the adventures of working together to achieve a common goal. There are no unkind characters or predators. As such, the books are about what can be created if you are loving and disciplined mice, prepared to work within a community to create an ideal, safe and supportive society. The first 4 books follow the seasonal pattern of spring, summer, autumn and winter, the 4 seasons and the spiritual path. Her later 4 books follow the mice's various adventures and activities. Overall, there are thus a number of themes running through the symbolism of the mouse, all related. If you are a dormouse, not standing up for what gives you safety and happiness, you will forever be taken advantage of. If, however, you are prepared to work hard and create order, the environment you create will be one that attracts those like you. Only then will you have the beginnings of an entirely safe house, one in which you can live your life free of predators, be well fed and warm, a place where children thrive. But there will always be the need for reapy-cheeps, brave and selfless individuals who take it upon themselves to sacrifice their lives for the community as a whole.